So I want to do a video on the pros and cons of board form because we had a client, well, we didn't actually install it, but we designed it, and they had board formed and they ended up being a little bit disappointed with the imperfections of the concrete. So I wanted to go through some of the expectations if you're planning on doing board form. When you do it, you basically pour the concrete and you put the forms on and you remove them after the concrete is cured. So you get what you get, more or less, and they might be pros to some people and cons to other people, but normal things is to have the wood grain. That's a pro to most people, that's why they want to do it. A pro or con, depending on your opinion, is having little pocket holes, having little voids in the concrete. That's totally normal. Yes, you can get rid of a lot of them if you're smacking it with a hammer, or if you get a concrete vibrator piece that you just run through there, but it's probably going to be nearly impossible to get rid of all of them, so you should expect to have some pockets or imperfections. Sometimes you'll see the layering of the concrete if it's being hand poured, especially if there's like a wheelbarrow dumped in at once and then it took a little time for the second wheelbarrow to get in there. You might see a little bit of a crease there. It should be able to mix in as those two pieces are coming together. Somebody should be sticking a shovel or some sort of stick in there to kind of like break that up a little bit. But again, the downside to board form is you don't get to see any of these things until it's pulled off. So unless you're very conscious that something went in a certain way, oftentimes you're not going to know that there might be an imperfection somewhere. And so that is the charm of board form, is it's going to have probably some pocket holes and it's going to have maybe a layer or two depending. You can always change up the type of concrete that you're using and use more of like a pea gravel versus like an aggregate and get more of that cream to the front, or just have a higher cream concrete, and that will also help. But at the end of the day, a lot of people choose to do board form because of the imperfections. The pros and cons of smooth troweled concrete, I would say there's not a lot of cons in my opinion. You pour the concrete and you pull the forms as it sets to a certain level. You can usually tell by touching. The weather's going to affect when you pull the forms off, and also how dry it is or wet, and how there's a lot of factors that might go into it. But anyways, concrete finishers will know when to pull the forms and it's still workable. So they'll get a wood or metal trowel. If you're finishing like a vertical side, you'd get the metal trowel. You'd make sure that the concrete's firm enough that it's going to hold itself up. Dip it in water, and then you're going to work out these imperfections, because you'll also have pocket holes in certain areas that the concrete just didn't sit quite perfectly. But that's the pro of having finished concrete or wet troweled concrete, is that you're given, it's like Play-Doh. You're given something and you get to keep molding it and molding it, and you get to see the whole process until it's done. And then you walk away knowing that you've seen each edge of it and you're happy with how it is. And as long as a cat doesn't run across it or your kids don't go drop something in it, it's gonna finish that way and it's gonna be perfect. So for example, this is concrete being wet troweled. They just pulled this form off and you can see that there's a bunch of holes right here. That's totally normal when forming concrete. And when you do a board form, you're gonna have stuff like that. To smooth that out, he's using the trowel with a little bit of water, and that's gonna fill in some of those joints. And they've been working on this for a while, so you can see this is more finished work. And just keep working it with the metal trowel. Smooth it out. But yeah, if you didn't do anything and you wanted a more rustic look, you could just do board form with this. Although the pieces that they used are like siding, I think, and so it doesn't really have any texture in there. Where the wood that we used on the other project had actual wood grain, so you kind of have that wood grain. But you kind of lose the wood grain if you're trying to knock out the pockets of open, I guess, the pockets or the voids. So I guess the downside is if you do smooth trowel and you don't put like a finish, that it can be a little bit more of a slick surface. When you use a metal trowel, what it's doing is actually pulling up the cream of the concrete to the surface, and that's what allows you to give it that really smooth surface. And that can become slick if wet after it's dry. But there are ways to mitigate that too. I think there's something called like alligator skin or shark skin that you can put a finish on. If you want to do that. In the project that we're doing currently, we did a top cast finish on the majority of the patio, and then in one small area we did this accent that was a different color, and we kept that smooth. So it is smooth, but it's not a very big area, so I'm not very concerned about it as being like a major slipping hazard. But yeah, a lot of times what's really popular right now for flat work is to do a top cast finish or a broom finish. And a broom finish is basically pouring your concrete and just running a broom over it, and that gives it a little bit of texture so it's not super slippery. And yeah, that's pretty much, broom finish is what you'd expect all concrete to be unless otherwise specified. Again, top cast is pretty much very popular, but it's cost a little bit more because there's an extra step in putting it on and taking it off. But anyways, hopefully that's somewhat helpful if you're considering the pros and cons of board form imperfections versus a smooth trowel finish for your concrete. And then anything vertical, you can smooth it all day long, or concrete countertops all day long, keep it smooth. But any flat work that you're gonna be walking on, you probably wanna do a broom finish or some sort of acid finish / top cast, which is like the more common way to do it now, just for the slippage. And like I said, we did a very cute little band that's smooth concrete, but it's not very big, so we're not really worried about it being like a major slipping hazard. Anyways, have a good day, guys. Off to make some returns.